Hi. Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I am Councillor Mohammed Ayub, Chair of Traffic Management Subcommittee. I would like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. This is the first one in the new year, so I will only just say this once. Happy New Year to everybody. Maybe. And I will say, tonight's meeting we'll be using audio, video, and to connect to the chamber in the Microsoft Teams meeting. There is a live stream available through the Teams, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the council website afterwards. The first item I have is declaration of interest. Do I have any? I have one as chair on item 7, which I will be leaving the chair and asking my colleague, the Vice Chair, Matteo, to take over for that one when we come to it. Minutes of the previous meeting on the 10th of November 2022, can I take those to be accurate, correct? Signed off? Yeah. We move on to item 3. Yeah.
No, there was one typing error, which is unfortunate. On page 9 or page 13, it's frequently made these days. On the penultimate paragraph, went to the edge of the curb, C-U-R-B. Curb is spelled K-E-R-B. We're not. Now, I also, like yourself, see the draft minutes, so I'm slapping my own wrist for having missed this. Yep. So if we could just correct that for future. I'll slap myself on the wrist for not having spotted that.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Unspotted.
By the way, we still have the meeting to arrange and get a date, by the way, on the with the local residents, so we need to take that forward.
Thank you. Chair. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Page. We move on to the next item, which are item 3, questions from member of public and councillors. We have no questions from member of public, one from Councillor White. I have a question on providing on-street secure cycle parking. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Some properties in Newtown in East Reading and across the town don't have front gardens. Encouraging more people to cycle will boost people's health, cut congestion and lower carbon emissions. Will the council trial on-street secure cycle parking, cycle hangers for example, in areas where people don't have a front garden, such as Newtown?
Thank you, Councillor White. Can I invite Councillor Tony Page, lead member transport, to provide a response on my behalf?
Chair, I thank Councillor White for his question. Reading Borough Council does not have any immediate plans to install the cycle hangers throughout the borough, but we are monitoring the impact of schemes elsewhere in the country, including in parts of London and Brighton. It's worth reminding colleagues that in most instances, the installation of cycle hangers will result in the loss of on-street parking, particularly in terrace streets where there's already a high demand for parking. It's therefore important that in considering any proposals for cycle hangers, we ensure they are located where they will be of greatest use and cause the least disruption to local residents. There is no standard cycle hanger, and I attached below or over leaf a few examples of different ones in London and Brighton. Incidentally, I did send through nice colour photos, but unfortunately they've become black and white, so the full glory of them has been slightly reduced. But the smallest hanger caters for 6 bicycles and occupies a minimum of 1 to 1.5 car parking spaces, but in some areas these are doubled up and require the loss of more on-street parking, as is shown in one of the photos, the top right photo being an example. Furthermore, the somewhat utilitarian design of these hangars may well raise planning concerns in our conservation areas and other sensitive locations. Transport officers will continue to develop plans through the work on our local cycling and walking infrastructure plan for effective cycle parking throughout Reading, This includes working with residents in areas where there is limited provision for cycle parking to understand where cycle hangers could be useful. Any future provision of cycle parking would be dependent on securing funding, and for the installation of cycle hangers would be subject to local public consultations and planning permission to determine appropriate locations. The council is continuing to improve safe and secure cycle storage across the town, and we have provided cycle parking with the inclusion of CCTV coverage at the north side of Reading Station. The council is also working with stakeholders on the provision of the Reading Cycle Hub that will provide a fully enclosed and secure cycle parking facility within the town centre in the next few months, and more details will follow shortly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor White, do you want to ask a supplementary?
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Page.
Thank you. We move on to item 4, which is petition. Could I call Dr. Marcel to come at the front? Right. This is tackling speeding on St. Bartholomew's Road. Could you state your full name, please, and who you are? And you have 5 minutes, and I will let you know when a minute is left. Okay. Just a warning, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Melissa Marcel. I am a resident of St. Bartholomew's Road. I am also a lecturer in environmental psychology at the University of Surrey. So although I do stand in front and lecture students, this is a bit intimidating environment, to say the least. So hello, and thank you for your time today. I'm here today to bring to your attention the need for an investigation into road safety onto St. Bartholomew's Road. It's a 20 mile per hour residential road with on-street parking that borders both sides. It borders Palmer Park, one of the largest green spaces in Reading, as well as a library, a college, and a church. As such, it sees a significant amount of pedestrian and vehicular traffic. It's located near 3 schools, Alfred Sutton, TVU, and Maiden Airlay. I hope I said that right. And many families and local children walk to these schools by crossing St. Bartholomew's Road to enter Palmer Park. And to do so, they have to cross between parked cars to cross the road into the traffic. Last bit of context, there's two-way traffic in the road and there's a bend in the road, which makes it difficult for car drivers to see oncoming traffic, especially when they're going at high speeds. The narrowness of the road can make passing very tight, and this poses a danger to road users. In fact, in October of last year, these conditions led to a serious car crash on St. Bartholomew's Road, which resulted in the car being flipped on its side after it crashed into 2 parked cars on either side of the road. This resulted in 2 fire engines and an ambulance coming to rescue the person out of their car that was flipped on its side. In May of 2022, a resident had their car written off after 2 cars crashed in the middle of the road and one of them crashed into her parked car. In 2018, a resident had their car written off when a car crashed into the back of her parked car when they were trying to avoid crashing head-on into another car. In addition to these serious accidents, residents have experienced a high number of damage to their parked cars, such as smashed wing mirrors and paintwork. I have pictures of said paintwork and a picture of the flipped car. I appreciate that they're quite small, so I can circulate them around. These car crash incidents are a cause of concern and demonstrate the urgent need for action to improve road safety on St. Bart's. It's also a residential undesignated road that lies between 2 A roads that has a high traffic volume as people use St. Bart's as a rat run to escape the traffic on London Road. It is worth noting that following the serious car crash in October, in which the car flipped on its side, temporary road speed signs were installed from the 21st of November to the 5th of December. And during this time, the speed signs were activated over 114,000 times in the 2 weeks. That's 114,000 times in the 2 weeks, indicating the large number of drivers who disregard the speed limit. So in light of these concerns, 64 local residents signed a petition requesting the council investigate road safety. I urge you to take their concerns seriously for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. And thank you for your time. I hope that was under 5 minutes.
Thank you. Could you remain seated? Councillor Page, you indicated.
Chair, can I thank, sorry, I forgot your surname. Right, Marcel, can I thank you for your presentation this evening? Thanks for coming along. Somebody's irritating phone there, but right. Excuse our colleagues for that lack of discipline. I don't know whether, first question, I don't know whether you've had a chance to see the late report that's been circulated to members of the committee, because we're proposing that this item be taken forward and added to an unfortunately long list of requests. St Bartholomew's Road is not the only part of the town which experiences speeding issues, as you will be aware. The fundamental point that the report hopefully brings out is that the council only has powers at the moment to install physical measures, humps being one example, chicanes and other forms of traffic calming, some of which you can see in the hospital and university area. And as somebody who's been around long and seen humps installed, humps are not necessarily the solution. There are many motorists who will drive at speed over humps. And so it does bring us back to the fundamental problem that we as a council and a community have, that we do not have the powers to actually enforce speeding. And the report makes that clear. We would like to have those powers. We are lobbying for those powers. London councils came on board shortly after we started the campaign, and that's an important development, and more local authorities, highway authorities such as Reading, are lobbying to have those powers to enforce speed limits in their area. If we get those powers, we can then be as effective on speed enforcement as we are as on parking enforcement, and that would be the objective. So we share your frustration and the frustration of residents throughout the town where there are roads suffering from speeding traffic. We would like to do more. Physical measures can only deliver so much, and I would venture to suggest even if we did put humps in St Bartholomew's, there would still be problems, and ultimately we do require those speed enforcement powers that reside with the police but which they don't exercise, and the cuts in their resourcing have also impacted their ability, whereas we would be able to take forward with cameras and other initiatives effective enforcement. So we aren't forgetting this and we aren't losing it, but until we get those powers, what we can do is limited. But can I thank you on behalf of the subcommittee for coming forward this evening, and there may be other contributions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. I share the concerns raised by the lead petitioner. This is a well-supported petition by the overwhelming majority of residents on St Bartholomew's Road. I think we would all be concerned if a car rolled over on one of our roads. Another resident, in addition to the ones mentioned, contacted me to tell me that his daughter's car has been written off not once but twice in recent years by people crashing into the cars, which is you can see how residents are getting frustrated and concerned by the danger of the driving on the road. As we heard, this road is right next to a park, it's right next to a library, it's a route well used by school children between the various schools in the area and their homes. This isn't a new problem. Green councillors have been representing residents and raising it for well over a decade, I would venture to say. We got the council to introduce 20 miles an hour across the area, but clearly more is needed. I think it's good to have the scheme on the transport measures list, and it was already on the transport measures list. I think what's been proposed in the report is to add a note referencing the petition to the existing entry on the transport measures list. It's been on the transport measures list for a number of years already. I would urge the lead councillor to fund this scheme. There was, for example, an underspend on the community infrastructure levy local spend, which could be utilised to fund some basic measures to calm the traffic in the road. This is a road safety scheme, and I think it should be prioritised.
Thank you, Councillor White. I don't see any more indications there. So can I ask the committee to note the report and agree with the recommended action in 2.1, 2.2, 2.4? Does the committee agree to take this forward? Yeah, okay. Right, thank you. And thank you for coming in this evening. You can stay if you wish to or leave.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll move on to item 5, which is waiting restriction review 2022B proposal for statutory consultation. Can I ask James Penman to introduce you?
Thank you, Chair. So this report follows the report in September's committee where we reported the list of requests for this new programme. So officers have since investigated those requests and made recommendations which were shared with ward councillors mid-November to early December. And the report tonight presents the recommendations and a request that we can take those forward to statutory consultation. And we will bring the results of that consultation to March's committee for a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Councillor Page.
I presume we're taking this ward by ward.
Yes, indeed, we are.
Yeah. In respect of the Abbey, I would 1 to 3, we support the recommended action. Number 1 to take forward, 2 to defer to the next year's programme for the reason given. Welldale Street, yes. With regard to West Street, we would go along with the officer recommendation in the first paragraph. It is unfortunate that the Deliveroo motorcycles, and in common with many of the Deliveroo cyclists and Just Eat in town, think that they are exempt from all restrictions, whether it be parking, driving on pavements, going down one-way streets the wrong way. We could all have a little rant about that, but the abuse of parking areas by them in West Street has caused the problems that are referred to here. The issue of displacement is obviously one of concern, which is why the issue of the south side of the butts was raised, but we understand the point that the officers have made. So on that basis, we would go with the officer recommendation and also to advertise the new bay just to the west of the target for no stopping except for motorcycles at any time. So hopefully that might encourage a bit more discipline in that area. So Chair, I would propose that we go with the officer recommendation in that first paragraph.
Thank you,
number four.
councillor Page. That is for Abbey Ward. Thank you. Just a quick reminder to the committee here that we've had this report to all ward councillors, and most of we got acknowledgement back there. Okay, but if you do pick something up, please indicate, and I'll come to you. The next three item I have is 3 in Battle Ward, Allen Park footpath, and 2 in Love Rock Road. Councillor Hacker?
Yeah, no, they're all fine. Thank you. Happy to go
You're
ahead
okay
with
with this, with officer's recommendations? Okay, fine. Thank you. And the next ward, we have 3 in Caversham Ward, Anglefield Road, Chiltern Road, and Hamden Road. This is request for double yellow line in Anglefield Road, a request by ward councillors for Chiltern Road.
Chair, there's actually more than that. There's another,
Sorry, beg your pardon.
but it doesn't,
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah, 6.
agree with the officer's recommendations because we've already been in consultation quite regularly with them about some of these items, so thank
Okay.
you.
You're happy with those 6? Sorry, beg your pardon.
We're happy for them to go to consultation.
Yeah, okay. Excellent, thank you. Next, we have 1 in Caversham Height, Gurney Close, request for waiting restriction on the junction of Woodcote Road. Councillor Cannon.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the ward councillors, the Conservative ward councillors are happy to go ahead with this proposal. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Next ward we have is Church, which is Barbara Close and Christchurch Road.
Yep. Chair, happy to
Councillor Andrews.
support the officer recommendations.
Okay, thank you. You got that? Okay. Yeah. Next, we have Coley. We have 5 in Coley, Carsdale Close, double yellow line, Lawn Street, Brownlow Road, Lesford Road, and Maitland Road.
Yeah.
Councillor
Yes,
Gitting.
just like some amendments to these, after liaising with residents and my fellow ward councillors, we'd like the Carsdale Close scheme to be deferred. It's a question of some of the detail on that and the positioning of yellow lines. So we'd ask for that to be deferred for just a little bit more work on that, having consulted with residents. We'd ask that the Lawn Street proposal be removed. We don't see the necessity for that. And for the Brownlow Road, Lesford Road and Maitland Road schemes to be gone out to consultation as proposed.
Thank you, Chair. May I just ask for clarification? When you say deferred, it's deferred to the next programme so that we're not holding this programme up. Is that?
That's
that
it, yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right. Next ward is Emma Green, Almond Drive, and Kendall Avenue with Junction and Goldsworthy and Grove. Right. Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, in respect of items 23 and 24, the Kendall Avenue junction with Goldsworthy and Grove Road, entirely happy from the ward councillor perspective with both of those proposals for the double yellows. Item 22, Almond Drive. I see officers are saying that the proposal should be withdrawn from the programme. Having been up there on the basis of complaints that we received, there are at least two residents' cars that are parking in the turning head itself rather than on their own property. They seem to be there pretty much permanently. And as a result, it is difficult to turn there. It's not impossible, so I take on board what the officers do say about there being other aspects, but it means that what should be a smooth turn, it becomes a 3 or 4 or even 5 point turn. There was one complaint we received from a carer who was visiting an elderly relative there and found it very difficult to turn at the end. So if it's possible for officers to perhaps reconsider that before pulling it from the programme, I'd be grateful. But in the light of there are not many other complaints, there's only been a couple. I take on board what they're saying, but it is an issue there, and it would be helpful if something could be done to address it.
Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. As we don't have a proposal now for this programme, we could put it into the next programme again and bring a proposal forward. If there's a strength of feeling that something needs to be done, we can put a proposal through the next programme now.
I'd be grateful. I mean, not seeking to penalise the residents who live there and obviously using the space, but they are effectively taking up nearly half of the turn with the 2 parked cars in it. If that could be, if you could do that, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next ward we have is 5 in Kentwood, which is Armour Hill. Request for those. Have I missed? Okay. No, I haven't. Emma Green. Oh, yeah, sorry, beg your pardon. Yep. Yes, my apologies. Yeah, 2 in Case Grove. I mean, I received okay with the recommendations, yeah? Right. Councillor White?
Thank you, Chair. I heard from the Catesgrove Green Party councillors on this one. We've relayed to officers that there are concerns that parking's already a premium in that area, and just putting double yellow lines in is just going to squeeze the cars further into inappropriate places. Myself and James Penman both had observed a car parked on a sloping grass verge was, I think, the best example of poor parking. And I think this sort of double yellow line scheme is going to result in more, even more dangerous parking like that. Catesgrove councillors feel that a scheme that looked at the area more holistically, like has been consulted on previously, which was rejected by residents, although not residents from this particular area. It was more residents in different areas. But yeah, just put in double yellow lines here is just going to squeeze residents into even more inappropriate parking. So can this one be deferred, please?
Right, Councillor White, can I just remind you, as you're on the committee and your colleagues as well, because we had agreement from Councillor Liam Challenger. Could your colleagues write in as well? I mean, I will ask Mr. Penman to come in as well, but please do write in the complaints. We can still take it off, defer it, but just in future, it will help. It'll help me as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly understand the challenges. I think Chandon Close has been a long-standing issue since it was adopted as public highway, which has only been in recent years. You referred to previous consultations that were undertaken for what was a holistic scheme, resident permit scheme, which would address directly some of the issues that are being reported here, such as informal park and ride sites and storage of vans. As you referred, the volume of objections, it wasn't taken forward. So what we're dealing with now is an issue that's being raised where essentially people are parking where they like, parking on footways, parking on highway verges. The challenge with Chandon Close specifically is that there is very limited space to accommodate on-street parking there in a formalised zone. So what we've tried to do is keep the double yellows to a minimum. So you notice where the road's wider, where we've got the recessed bays, etc., they're still available. But it's those areas that we've got at the moment where we do have this parking all over the footways and the verges, is to try and clear it up and make it more accessible. But I do appreciate that that is going to cause a level of displacement, which is why ideally we were looking at the resident permit scheme in the wider area. That may come round again, but not at the moment. So yeah, the recommendation is this scheme from officers, because it would clear up some of the problems that are there at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Councillor White. I'm sorry, Councillor Tony Page.
I might regard that as offensive, Chair, almost, but could all councillors, not only members of this subcommittee, get sent a letter. In fact, got sent 2 emails reminding them of the need to engage with these. And it would appear that the Catesgrove councillors that Councillor White has just referred to didn't, because if there had been comments, as you will see with the next and with earlier ones, ward councillor comments would have been reflected here. Now, can I just ask Mr. Penman if there's been any engagement, and if that has been the view expressed by some of the councillors, why hasn't that been included in here?
You have to forgive my memory. I know we've certainly had conversations about this, but the comments that we've included have been around variations of the recommendations. So where there's been disagreement, but other options, we have reflected that.
Yeah, but
but certainly in terms of this scheme, I understand the concerns that are raised here, but for us at the moment, we've tried the alternative, which was resident permit.
Yeah.
That didn't work. So we're trying something else here to deal with some specific issues that are being raised in that area. So say we do understand the pressures, but we don't really have a lot of other options at the moment if we want to try and clear up the footways.
Thank you.
I would see it.
Councillor John Ennis. Yeah.
Councillor Challenger. Yeah, so he's actually contacted, and therefore we go for a consultation on that.
Yeah, all that's being asked for tonight is to go to consultation, and we're not actually implementing anything yet. So if there is pushback from local residents, we still have the opportunity not to proceed, but it might hopefully, I would propose, Chair, that we continue with both these recommendations, and for the reasons that Mr. Penman set out, and we've always got the option to pull it.
Yep. Councillor Ennis. Yep.
Got a very long sweep. Sorry. I would second that, and make the point that some, political parties may have one leader who does all the work, but many other political parties have other councillors that engage, and we would recommend that they would engage as local councillors, which I will come on to in my own ward. And therefore, if one's engaged, we should go with that, and we should go, and I would second it and go out to consultation. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor White, do you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, the Catesgrove ward party, the Catesgrove Green Party ward councillors did engage. They did contact transport planners by email. We had a phone discussion. I think what Mr. Penman is saying is because the transport planners wanted, their preference was to continue with this scheme. That's why those comments aren't reflected in the report. Maybe something to consider in future is to include those comments, even if transport planners disagree with them and think a different route is preferable, and then other councillors can see that concerns have been raised. I disagree with going ahead with this. I think more work needs to be done working up a scheme that's going to be supported rather than going to consultation on something that's going to receive a lot of pushback. But yeah, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that.
So are you happy for it to go forward? Do you want to still defer? No. You want to defer? Okay. Can we put it to the vote, please? Yeah. Do you want to divert this case or continue? I'm asking. Are we in favour to continue with the consultation? Yeah. Put your hands up. Yeah. Against? It's just one. So we'll continue with it. Okay, we'll continue with it as well. You can always have it. Yeah. Can we move on to the next ward? Is Kentwood. We have 5, Armour Hill, Norcote Road, 2 Norcote Will Rise. I'm looking.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mark Keeping.
With respect to items 27, 29, 30, 31, agree that we should go ahead with those. On item 28, we would prefer option B. This road's part of an estate built in the 1930s before common ownership of cars, so there's almost no off-road parking spaces. We want to reduce the problem of parking over the pavements, which we will be able to enforce by this restriction if it is implemented. But we also recognise the need for residents to park at night. We're therefore seeking option B with a slight amendment to the hours of operation, starting from 8 till 6 for the purposes of the consultation. A full-time restriction just would not work in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I second that proposal that we go out to consult on an 8 AM to 6 PM single yellow line, which obviously allows us the option to slightly reduce that period if there is that pressure from local residents, but I think that's a sensible way forward here.
Thank you. The committee agrees. Can we take that forward? James, got it? Right. Okay. Next ward we have is Norcourt, is Shaftesbury Road, request to reduce or remove some of the existing restrictions. We okay with that? We okay with the officer's recommendation? Councillor Mitchell? Yeah, okay, good. The next ward we have is Park Ward. We have 3 in Park Ward: Cholmondeley Road, Crescent Road, and Palmer Park. Number of reports received. Councillor White? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and colleagues opposite will be disappointed, but I'm going to agree that with all the recommendations, as I have on everything tonight, apart from one of the schemes, despite the rumours to the contrary.
Thank you, Councillor White. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Next ward we have is Redlands. We have 3 in Redlands. Can we agree to those? Councillor White?
Just to say that my colleagues in Redlands support the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Agreed. Committee agrees. Okay, fine. We take those forward. Next ward we have is Southcote, Leavenwood Road,
Yes.
Roman Street. Councillor Ennis.
Yes, I'm going to report a high level of engagement with all 3 of the Southcote councillors, including discussions with traffic. There was sulking, there was toys thrown out of the pram. I wasn't happy, but we've come to a conclusion that we back the officer's recommendations. I'm not happy, but we back the officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Can we agree, the committee agree with those? Yeah. Thank you. Agreed. Next ward we have Thames. We have 3 in Thames: Kennyside, Mill Road, and Barry Place. Councillor Adele Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in terms it wasn't quite as dramatic as it sounds like Southcote has been, but we did take the views of all 3 ward councillors into account rather than just 2 of them. So we're going to go with the officer recommendations, please, but I also want to sort of note thanks for the efforts of officers and also previous councillors for Barry Place, which I know has been a long time coming and not easy, and I know that we still don't have the funding that we need for an element of it. But it's really great to see it get to this point, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Adele. The committee agrees with that? Yep. Next ward we have is Tylers. We have 3 in Tylers, Chapel Hill, and 2 in Norcourt Road.
Thank you, Chair. All 3 Tylehurst ward councillors are happy to agree the officer recommendations on the 3 items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. We agree with that? Next ward we have is Whitley. We got 3 there: Blandford, Fox Hayes, and Melbourne Close. Councillor Mickey Lamb.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we agree with the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. committee agrees?
All
with that
three
as well?
Whitley councillors agree with the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. The agreement with that, and that concludes that. We're moving on to item 6, which is active travel fund Trench 3, Castle Hill and Bath Road traffic restriction proposal for. Can I ask the officer who's introducing this? James.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report was to update councillors on the development of our active travel tranche 3 scheme. This is a segregated cycle scheme between Castle Hill and Bath Road up to the junction with Berkeley Avenue. The report sets out the public engagement to date and recommends to the committee that officers commence the statutory consultation on the TRO changes detailed within the report. In summary, to accommodate the segregated cycle lane, officers are recommending a statutory consultation be undertaken on the proposed measures, namely the removal of the central tidal lane at the bottom of Castle Hill, alteration to the residents' parking bays on Castle Hill, and to implement parking restrictions, which would be the equivalent of the removal of one usable parking bay, and reducing the inbound bus lanes from its commencement shortly after Berkeley Avenue Junction by approximately 123 metres. The scheme supports the council's corporate plan, local transport plan, and in particular supports the council's aim of a healthier environment.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Page.
Chair, firstly, can I just record that I'm a resident of Castle Hill and have been for 40 odd years, so I know the area reasonably well, and I strongly support as do the Abbey and Coley councillors, the scheme that is before us. There have been consultations referenced in the report, and the amendments that are proposed on Castle Hill on the northern side are ones that we support. And will be welcomed not only by residents on Castle Hill who use that, but also those in Jessie Terrace who also make use of it. I'm sure that Councillor Gittings may want to say something about the Bath Road end, so I won't comment about that. The removal of the central lane is one that is required to deliver the enormous benefits of this scheme, which is segregated cycle lanes on both sides of Bath Road and Castle Hill, with the very short exception at the pinch point at the bottom of Castle Hill. But the need for tidal flow on Castle Hill has changed dramatically since the pandemic. Peak hour flows throughout Reading have reduced the spike concentration of traffic at certain peak hours has reduced considerably throughout Reading. Congestion is still experienced, but not in the same way. It's more spread, if anything, and certainly the result of the pandemic and the post-pandemic period has been a massive reduction of congestion on Castle Hill, so much so that speeding is now the problem and complaints from local residents for most of the day. And this scheme will introduce an element of traffic calming, not in the form of humps, but simply the reduction in road space will occasion more discipline at both the southern and eastern and western end. There will be changes at the roundabout that are referenced in the report as well. So overall, the scheme is part of our expansion across the town of segregated cycle lanes. We're one of the top delivering authorities in the country in securing funding. Shinfield Road already being built out. We have the funding for Bath Road and Castle Hill. And we have other schemes that we have identified through earlier consultations that we will submit to government as soon as the round 4, I think, is it Active Travel 4, becomes available. And so the filling in of a number of key strategic routes can then be achieved. So, Chair, I commend this report and the scheme as a whole to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor Gitting, you indicated.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, I don't have much more to add than what the Councillor Page has, in his usual way, has gone through in great detail the benefits of the scheme, and particularly, obviously, it does fringe my ward in Coley ward, certainly the Bath Road section, and then at the bottom it goes into the other ward with the Castle Hill section, certainly on where Councillor Page resides, and I think that will have the consequence, this scheme, of slowing traffic down. I know residents, certainly could be concerned by that. Certain residents we've spoken to have been concerned by speeding in that area as well. So this is a win-win, really. It's going to be great for cyclists and active travel, but also will help with quite a serious traffic management issue, which I think has certainly, since the pandemic, traffic flows have gone down, but there is certainly evidence, both anecdotal and I think through research, that speeding is a major issue now. And obviously with all the implication that occurs in some quite dangerous speeding. So, we're fully in support of this scheme. And it as Councillor Page said, we have consulted widely with the Cycle Forum, which I chair. There's a meeting actually coming up soon next month, where again we will discuss this, and also the CAST Forum, Clean Air and Safer Transport Forum, so that people have had a good chance to look at this scheme. But obviously, still amendments can be made through the statutory consultation process, because the detail is really important in these schemes. I believe with the Shinfield Road scheme we've made quite a lot of changes, but we're getting it right, because we're spending public money, 1.3 million roughly, for this scheme, and it's important that we get it right and reflect the views, obviously, of residents, and obviously in particular people, cyclists, going to be use these. I mean, I think at the moment we have about 6% of people cycling red in the borough. Our ambition is to greatly increase that, and these type of segregated schemes, particularly on strategic routes, play a really important part. I mean, I think we've got 5/6 schemes worked up, and through Active Travel Trans 4 and other funding, we hope to be able to deliver those over the next coming year. So this is a work in progress as regards that, and shows our ambition in this area, because not least it helps to tackle climate change if we can reduce congestion, get people out of cars and onto bikes and other forms of active travel. So fully in support of the scheme, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gitting. Councillor Moore, you indicated.
Thank you, Chair. I'm absolutely in support of this scheme. I think, just take the Bath Road section first, I think as quite a wide road that it will really benefit from this proposal. I think there's plenty of room for this sort of thing. So I think that's a very positive step, and how it's to be implemented looks good. And the Castle Hill, Castle Street section, I'm especially pleased to see proposed removal of the existing tidal flow lane. Residents and indeed friends have explained and demonstrate to me how confusing that has been over time, especially those who are newer to Reading and have had to use that section, because obviously the condition has changed depending on the time of day, but you might not be familiar with that, and you can really come unstuck. So I think that will really simplify that part of the road and hopefully improve flow. Obviously, as Councillor Page said, the amount of traffic at peak hours has changed since the pandemic, as many things have, but I think removing confusion from traffic flow will be very beneficial. Also, if you're going to get cycle traffic down there, removing that will actually, I realise it's been removed for space, but I think it's also been removed for simplicity, will be of great benefit as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I don't see any more indications, so thank you, councillors, for all your input. That's good. Can we move forward now to recommended action 2.1 to 2.4? Agreed? Yep. Okay, excellent. Right, the next item is the Station Hill exchange, which I have an interest in, and I will ask my colleague to chair this item. I'll leave the chair.
Right, I was just waiting for Councillor Ayub to leave. So the next item is item 7. It's the Station Hill alterations to the southwest interchange taxi rank. Can I call on Darren Cook to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out proposals as a result of the Station Hill development and includes alterations to the taxi rank within the southwest interchange outside Reading Station, something that was party to the planning application for Station Hill. As set out in the report, the development is currently progressing, which includes the highway works to provide the proposed pocket park. The development requires the reconfiguration of the taxi rank facility in order that the pocket park can be fully provided, and this report sets out the changes to the restrictions in order to facilitate the management of the taxi rank facility. I would advise that the trees that surround the taxi rank currently are located within tree pits, and although not illustrated on the drawing at Appendix 1, these will be relocated to new positions around the revised layout. Where relocations couldn't be accommodated due to trees being damaged during that process, then these trees will be replaced with new trees, and that will be a requirement of the planning application and also the Section 278 Highway Works Agreement.
Thank you.
Works.
Sorry,
Chair. The works are to be undertaken by the development and forms part of the Highway Works Agreement, with these works scheduled to commence later this year, or early this year. I note in the report I did say later next year, and that's because I wrote the report last year, so there's an error in that report. Yeah, they will commence later this year, and they are in. The developers are in consultation with the Taxi Association to timetable those works appropriately. We're asking the committee to permit officers to carry out the statutory consultation. We need to advertise and alterations as detailed in the report. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Page, you indicated you want to speak.
Yep, just briefly, Chair. I thank Darren for him and his colleagues, the work that they've done on this. The Reading Taxi Association is fully in support of this, and you will note on paragraph 1.3 on page 95, the redesign actually increases the number of spaces from 18 to 22. I'm glad that Darren Cook referred to the tree issue, because overall the Station Hill, the consented scheme, does deliver more trees than are currently there, which wouldn't be difficult given the previous condition of the site, but there will be more trees and greenery with the consented scheme. So I'm grateful for that clarification, and also about the point about next year or rather this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Any other councillors wish to speak? No. Then in that case, can we take a vote to accept the recommendations and go to consultation? Thank you. Would somebody perhaps rescue Councillor Ayub? Otherwise, I shall end up temporarily sitting here till he comes back. Well, somebody needs to empower me to carry on till he comes back then.
Item 8 is Carnarvon Drive installation of the bus cage. Darren, could you?
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out proposals for the site previously known as the home-based Toys R Us site on Carnarvon Drive and includes the introduction of bus cages on both sides of the carriageway. As set out in the report, the development is progressing with some properties occupied. I think there's a fair amount of those are occupied now. The proposed development is required to provide the bus cages to help promote bus services to and from the development and obviously the wider commercial and residential units. The works are to be undertaken again by the developer as part of their Section 27838 Highway Works Agreement. These are scheduled to commence later this year, and as per the previous report, that is later this year and not as per the report which says next year. Proposals are set out fully within the report. We're asking the committee to permit officers to carry out the statutory consultation we need to advertise the alterations as detailed in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Just on behalf of the Thames Ward councillors, this is a very straightforward thing. All the work was done some years ago to agree this. Bus cages aren't as exciting as they sound, as I found out when I Googled it. It's just paint on the road. But yes, we're looking forward to seeing them in place. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more indications, so can we move to agree to recommended action 2.1, 2.2? Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Agenda item 9 on page 111, which is the annual parking service report. Helen Tam, to introduce this, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the annual parking report is something that we are required to produce each year. The one in front of you now is for the financial year 21-22. It summarises the activities that have been carried out in parking services, which does include bus lanes and next time round will include moving traffic. So this summarises that. It's fairly self-explanatory in what it does do, as well as being a legal requirement. It's actually quite nice to see the summary of what has happened over the course of the financial year. I would just like to point out that there was an omission within the report that you received. It has already been corrected, and that omission was within Appendix A. Code 49 was missed, which is parked in a cycle track, and there were 10 PCNs issued for that across that particular financial year. So apologies for that omission.
Thank you, Councillor Page. You indicated.
Yeah, Chair, can I thank Helen for the introduction and commend this report to colleagues. Longer serving members will be aware that we've been publishing these now for I think over 10 years, if not longer, and they contain a huge amount of detail broken down to every street in the borough. Not every street in the borough has had the benefit of a parking ticket being served, but many have, and they testify to the level of enforcement that we bring to our parking schemes and our restrictions, and likewise with the bus lane enforcement. And just going back to an earlier item, besides the moving traffic offences, which we lobbied long and hard for and eventually got, and will be included in the in the current year and next year's report. I look forward to the day when this similar report will also include details of speed enforcement offences as well. But in the meantime, the information that is set out in here is extremely useful, and I would specifically draw attention to colleagues to the section chapter 5 from page 134 onward, entitled Challenges, Representations and Appeals, which sets out the process that we're required as an required by law to go through. This is not a locally determined procedure. This is not us setting up these various stages. This is what is set out in under the Traffic Management Act 2004, and we are required to go through these procedures. And Helen and her colleagues are currently reviewing aspects that are under our control, particularly relating to stage 1, and further information will be brought to colleagues during the course of the year as those processes are reviewed. But the overall framework of the appeals process is set out here, and I thank Helen and colleagues for the detail as ever in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor White, you indicated.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you for highlighting that the parking in a cycle lane offence was missed from the report, but it's been put in now. You said that 10 tickets were issued to vehicles blocking cycle lanes. I was chatting to my Catesgrove Green Party colleagues who often raise vehicles blocking the Whitley Street cycle lane, and they were saying that 10 tickets could be issued per hour on that stretch of cycle lane. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts as to what the council could be doing to discourage people from parking in those cycle lanes, and how we could be upping the signs for an offence that I as a cyclist I frequently see. I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for that. We will do everything we can. So if people, when they observe a vehicle parked in a cycle lane, if they can contact us, and we'll send someone out as soon as we can to deal with that. It is difficult to issue a PCN to a vehicle parked in a cycle lane. We do need extra traffic orders, not just the cycle lane, to get that ticket issued. Hopefully that will start to be cleared up as the moving traffic comes on, because all of that's going to start to pull in. It was till very recently only the police that could deal with cycle lanes. So it is, the legislation needs to catch up with what we're trying to do. But my advice would be, as soon as they're observed, give us a call. Also, if you wanted to put that in an email to me, I can make sure that we up the patrols in that particular street.
Thank you, Helen. Councillor Ennis.
Not just a thought there, Councillor White, to get the Catesgrove councillors to put that in an email rather than yourself, but that's just a thought, an inappropriate thought from my side.
Yeah, they've already done so, Councillor Ennis.
Oh, it's good to hear that. It's good to hear
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Good to hear that. Yeah, I was just looking at, Southcote is not a prolific area for parking tickets, we have to admit. It's not known for the issues that are elsewhere, although there are parking issues. One of the things that residents have constantly continued to be concerned about is school parking. As you smile, rightly smile, because you're probably copied into many of the emails. Silchester Road particularly, I noticed there was one. And that's understandable. But I suspect again that Southcote Ward is not the only ward where school parking is an issue. Although you know yourself, don't you, from what you drop in. I wouldn't say, I don't know if it's the worst it's about, I can't comment, but I know it's pretty bad. And there does be some issues, and I suspect that could be replicated throughout the whole of the town. Is there any way there could be special, I know I see you're nodding already, ways and means that we could, because some parents are parking not only inappropriately and not very respectfully, but rather dangerously outside some of our schools. And is there any way we could think about that, how we could, is there a special team that fly out between the hours of 8:30 and 9 o'clock or whatever it is, and then 3:15? So I just thought, because I know my own ward, to be serious, has had some real issues about that, and they've continued to contact yourselves.
So to answer that, as a parking services manager, but also as a mother of 4, the school run traffic drives me slightly mad. There are things we can do. So one of the things that's happening at the moment, as I'm sure everybody is aware, is that the parking enforcement contract is coming to an end and we're just putting together the new contract. Part of that will involve the requirement for whoever is our new service provider to ensure that there is an increased level of activity year on year at school pickup and drop-off times. It's really difficult to enforce around schools because a lot of parents will just drive away as soon as they see the civil enforcement officer approaching, which is frustrating. But what we can do is we can increase the number of cameras we've got for the school zigzag markings. There's not an enormous amount of those across Reading at the moment. It is something that can be increased. They do increase compliance considerably, but it's only for the zigzags. So what tends to happen then is it's displaced further out. In previous authorities, I have been involved in making sure that we work with particularly difficult to enforce schools with the actual school to try and get some education across to the parents as well. I'm not suggesting that works completely, but it does help. And some really good publicity around what we're doing as well, particularly if there's new cameras that come online, to make sure people know, because actually I'd rather educate people and they don't do it than just issue ticket after ticket after ticket. So yes, it is something that is definitely going to be increased, and there's different ways we can do that.
Yes,
Okay,
thanks,
Councillor.
Alan. That's really helpful. And that's good to hear that. And obviously we can discuss outside the meeting. I'd be interested about the zigzags, but I see one school in Southcote, Manor, have little people, so about my size, little people, and they put them on the road or put them on the pavement, and they're like, please don't drive to me. You know, most parents would probably think, oh, don't drive fast, but the odd one wouldn't. Is that part? Maybe we could discuss this outside, but measures like that might be able to help.
Yeah, I'm happy to have that conversation sort of outside the meeting, but yeah, seen that done.
Thank you, Helen. Next I have is Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I'm glad Councillor Ennis brought that up. I have a similar issue, but I wanted your advice on this. Is we have a school that's just outside Reading Borough, but is affecting a road inside Reading Borough, Glenwood Drive and St Paul's School. How can we apply what you said to that? Is it possible to work cross-border in that case?
Absolutely. There's a really strong network actually of parking managers across not only sort of the Berkshire area, but nationally. So if you drop me an email and let me know where that is, and I'll get something sorted.
Thank you, Helen. Councillor Gitting.
Yeah, look, I think everybody's, this is a bugbear for everybody. I mean, obviously I chair the Cast Forum, the Cycle Forum. This comes up, and also deliver bikeability a number of schools. And I can tell you some of the parking outside schools right across the town. It's not just a Reading problem. I deliver bikeability in Oxford, and you know, it's a major problem. What I would say is that I welcome the comments, Helen's comments there about better enforcement and using technology to cut this out, because I think people get a warning and then they may think about modifying the behaviour. But I would, and it came through the Cast Forum, which was previously chaired by Councillor Barnett Ward. We started these schemes, school street schemes. We did one at Wilson School where my children attended. They do make a major impact on this type of driver behaviour. I know it's not possible to do them in all schools. Some are on major arterial roads, although a lot of schools do have side access where you can put them in. But certainly in terms of the school that Councillor Ennis mentioned, I would have said that's a prime candidate for a school street actually, and others as well. And I would really encourage schools and school governors and parents to contact, who are concerned about this, to actually contact the school and say, what about having a school street? And the one in West Berkshire there, I'm sure they'd welcome a school street sign. But also those little signs outside, the cardboard signs that Manor, I've been there, they do work. And I think at Civitas, there's a chap actually, I think he's just a volunteer. He goes out every morning and puts out various bits of infrastructure to discourage it from there. So, he's a volunteer as well. But a school street scheme really does help as well.
Thank you. Councillor Page.
Yeah, Councillor Gittings has made that point, which I won't repeat, but could I just draw colleagues' attention to page 125 of our papers? It's page 11 of the actual report, and it's the section headed Approved Device PCNs. Now, this is the mobile enforcement, and you'll see in the first table school keep clear markings that 255 PCNs were served. This is a very specific offence. Now, obviously the school keep clear markings will be enforced at the appropriate times. I wonder whether, without it, providing this doesn't incur too much difficulty, would you be able to let us have, not now obviously, but a breakdown of where those were? I think that would be helpful because clearly the mobile van, whilst a civil enforcement officer walking around will have motorists moving very quickly, a vehicle coming up upon them obviously doesn't, which is why 255 have been served. It's an argument for more vehicles. We now have two. I don't know whether they're both operational at the moment. One seems permanently out of action. But I wonder if, Helen, you could give us just a bit more detail about that. And if not tonight, then just send the committee a breakdown of where those 255 have been served. I think all colleagues would find that helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Helen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get that out to you. I'm not going to magic up the detail right now, but yeah, I'll make sure that is over to you.
So I see no more indications, and I'd like to just say thank you to Helen and her team. This is quite a detailed report there, and can we move to recommended action in 2.1, 2.2?
I think what Councillor Page has said is really, I'd love to see that. We've already looked at Exbourne Road, Jeffrey Fields, I suspect, and the numbers there. So that would be really helpful. Sorry to butt in, but I think that would be really helpful. I hope that was a helpful heckle. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Councillor, on this. Thank you. Okay, Councillor.
While we're on the topic of school parking, it's just anecdotal. It's we've got WLO lines down Exbourne, which is Jeffrey Fields, and we've had tickets issued. But as we saw in the consultations to move forward, it's Blandford Road, and in particular now that roundabout at the end of Exbourne. You see, so we throw in WLO lines, and we can shunt the parking down the road a little bit. We're now going to put WLO lines in there, which will shunt it out that way again.
Yeah.
So this is, like you said, education with the schools, getting the schools to do it, and parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, there's an ongoing work as well, and you can still, I'm sure, send emails to Helen, and she will take in inputs as well. So can we move to recommended action 2.1, 2.2? Yeah, committee agree? Thank you. Thank you. That includes the first part of this tonight's business, and the next bit is the resident parking permit. So I would ask. Yes, I am going through jump to jump. I would ask you're on a speed tonight, Councillor Page. Next item is private and confidential, and I would ask member of public and press to leave the building. Likely. So I'll read this out. Is the percent of section 100A of Local Government Act 1972 amended, a member of public and press exclude during following items on an agenda, likely there to be a disclosure exempt. Okay.